Hey, you guys. Welcome to the Giani Cooking Show. I was privileged to actually have an Italian grandmother that lives in Provence, where I was born, and I also grew up in restaurants in Paris that my parents used to have. My grandmother did most of the cooking at my grandparents' place, and I'm going to show you today how to make pasta bolognese the way that she used to make it, the way that it was served into my parents' restaurants, the rustic, authentic Italian way, the way that she used to make it. Doesn't matter that everybody makes a different way, but this is the way that she used to do it. So welcome to my cooking show, and let's do that. So what I got to do right now is I'm taking some pancetta, which is pork belly that you can get straight from the store. Now you can get guanciale also, which is the pork cheek, and you can also get bacon if you don't have it. And what I do is I'm going to saute it into a high temperature deep pan. What I'm going to add to it is actually some of my custom olive oil that I've infused with garlic, and I also infused it with bay leaves, organic Italian seasoning, and herbs of Provence. And I'm going to add just a spoonful of it. And that's just going to complement all the pancetta that I'm going to actually reduce in there and make everything taste marvelous. Well, next to the pancetta, while it's cooking, I'm going to add black olives. Black olives were cured in oil. And I got actually my dipito, and I depeat them. I take my time to depeat them with some capers. And I'm going to add all that to the pancetta just for flavor. And it's going to be marvelous. So while this is actually cooking, I'm also going to add a little bit of tomato paste to it. Next to the tomato paste, I'm going to do some organic Italian seasoning or Italian or herbs of Provence that's organic. I'm going to add some salt, just a good pinch or two, some black pepper, and we're going to let it reduce itself. This is actually the base of what my grandmother used to make a really good bolognese sauce, the traditional way. So you cannot cut corner usually with a good bolognese sauce. You can cook it for hours and hours and hours, but I'm going to actually show you how to cook it in 20 minutes and have a marvelous rustic bolognese that you can have during the week. And if you make a volume of it, that you can save it in the freezer or not. One of the things that I got to add to it is actually sofrito. Sofrito. It's also called mirepoix in French. Let's go with sofrito. Sofrito is shaved carrots, it's shaved onions, and celery. Shaved because looking at the old things that my grandmother used to make it, she actually used to slice the carrots, which is also a great way of cooking it, but it takes longer. So in that presentation, we're going to showcase how to make it quickly. So what I have to do that, I take a regular carrots, and instead of slicing it, you take like a box scraper and you can actually shave it. And it's absolutely marvelous stuff that comes out right underneath because you actually cook faster. And that's what we want to do to achieve a quick meal pretty fast. Now, next to that, the next step, bolognese. Bolognese, people will argue it's ground beef, it's this, it's that. I got ground beef, and I also have minced pork meat. The kind of pork meat that you actually find in Italian sausage, summer sausage, which is really good stuff. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to break it up. Before you mix it in, you can actually mix it in and break it up with olive oil, but I've already included olive oil into my pan, and that helps breaking it up. So what you want to do, you want to sweat the meat, meaning that there is water in the meat. So again, I got everything turned on high, and I'm going to sweat. Don't have a cover on right now. That's going to come later. But I'm sweating my meat. And I got the black olives, I got the capers, I got the basically the pork that's in there, and it's just adding some marvelous flavor with the capers and everything else. In the meantime, I'm going to put my pasta on. Now, this is the quickie way to actually make a bolognese sauce. You can actually spend a lot of time, a lot of hours making it the old-fashioned way, the old rustic way, like my grandmother used to make it. But this is the beginning of the long way. You would start it just like that. You would brown the meat in bigger volume into a bigger pan. Next to that, when my meat is browned, I'm going to take it off and I'm going to make my sofrito. I don't put my sofrito first or mix it in right away because there is water in the sofrito. There's water in the carrots, there's water into the onions, and there's water in the celery. So you actually wait and you split them apart like this. You sweat the meat either first or second using the olive oil to actually get the water out of it and infuse that meat with all those flavors. And then you do the sofrito, or you do your sofrito first and then you sweat your meat. But the whole point is to sweat those flavors, that water out of those vegetables so you can get the flavors. So just like that, you really don't want to brown the meat too much. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to take it off, spoon it out of there. As you can see, it's just beautiful. I wish you could smell that. It's, mamma mia, it smells so good. And what I'm going to do is my sofrito there, right into that oil that's like left over there on high. And this is what we're going to do right now. We're going to do the sofrito. So with the sofrito, I had a pinch of lavender. I got more herbs of Provence or Italian seasoning. I prefer organic. Pinch of black pepper. Couple of pinches of salt. Why the salt? Because he actually gets the water out of it, of the vegetable, just like the meat. And what we can do, also at the same time, we can add a little bit of diced tomatoes with it. Not too much. In the meantime, you're letting the meat rest and let us cook all that stuff in no time to make a quick bolognese sauce that will be outrageous. At the same time, I put a little bit of balsamic vinegar on it. I add the balsamic vinegar to my meat. You can add a little bit of tomato paste as well, concentrate, and you just stir it up with love and devotion. Love and devotion. In the meantime, I'm going to put my pasta in. Up. Beautiful. And that's going to cook very fast too. I had the privilege to grow up actually with an Italian grandmother. And most of the recipe that were actually done up in Provence, my parents used to serve it in the restaurants. And they were actually very, very successful because you really don't need to serve a lot of food. It's just, whatever you serve has to be extremely well done. So what I'm going to do for that, I'm going to put the cover on. Not for long, just for 1 minute. 1 or 2 minutes. And you just stir that meat. That meat looks absolutely beautiful. And it's going to give some rendering of juices with the black olives, the capers, the Italian seasoning. You got a little bit of salt, a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of balsamic vinegar. No wine. We had a wine press in the village. We used to serve just balsamic vinaigrette in there and keep the wine for drinking. And it just enriched the whole flavor. Next to that, I'm going to bone broth. A little bit of bone broth. A little bit of milk. Ooh, the milk takes the acidity off of it. Here we go. Mix it all in. Cover it up for another 30 seconds or so. The pasta is cooking. What do we have here? Here we go. That's going to be done in no time. Now, usually for pasta, bolognese, pappardelle is the choice of pasta. The second one is tagliatelle pasta. You can also use spaghetti. It looks like everybody loves spaghetti. The traditional way is to serve it without a lot of tomato sauce. The Americano way, the French way, everybody fell in love with the Italian seasoning and the Italian tomatoes and pomodoro and whatever. So now you have a tendency to cook the spaghetti bolognese with a lot of tomato sauce. The key element is that you got to use a fat pasta because the whiter the pasta, the more it soaks in the flavor of the sauce. So it's more appealing and it's more desirable than spaghetti. Spaghettis are great too, but they're a lot thinner than pappardelle or tagliatelle pasta, basically. So now that we are done reducing our wonderful sofrito, we just give it a good stir. And next to that, we're gonna add our beautiful minced meat. Look at this beautiful pork, this beautiful beef. And now we're gonna stir it all up with all this sauce. That's all we gotta do. We got the black olives. We've got a little pinch of garlic and onions in there. Now, obviously, it's up to you if you want more onions, more garlic, more celery, more carrots. It's up to you. The key elements of the carrots and the onions is that it makes everything sweeter. Why? Because we have sugar. So if you sweat the veggies from the water, then you will end up with flavors plus the sugar. So now if you add the meat to this concoction of onions and carrots, then now here we go. Here the smells are coming out of there like straight from Italy. And that's the smells that I grew up in Provence and also in Paris. So let us wait a couple of more minutes while it's done. In the meantime, let me show you what a already cooked bolognese sauce for days on end. It is the same thing as that, but done more with volume. More volume of celery, more volume of carrots, more volume of black olives and capers, more diced tomatoes, more bone broth, more milk, and you just put it on the stove with salt, pepper, balsamic vinegar, herbs of Provence or Italian seasoning, organic if you can find them organic. I've got my own supply of fennel seeds. Already loaded up with the stuff on the side, much more than usual. And then I add my diced tomatoes, my tomato paste in there, and I just let it cook anything between 3 hours to 8-9 hours. And that will make you traditional bolognese sauce the old-fashioned way if you have the time to do it. Now we are ready to finish the dish. Like my grandmother used to say, it's not the sauce that comes to the pasta, it's the pasta that comes to the sauce. So here we are, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to grab this beautiful pasta, just like my grandmother used to make, and we're going to add it. Ooh, just like that. There's more to come. As you notice, the pasta is not completely cooked all the way through, al dente, because you're going to finish to cook it all together with the bolognese sauce. And the flavors who are all over your house are just like my grandmother's house growing up in Provence. And that was a privilege. That was a privilege. Same for my parents' restaurant's kitchen. But when we are young, we're working in the kitchen, we're complaining, we want to play with our friends, and we don't realize until later on that it was a gift. It was going to school. And that's exactly what I am here today to share with you these beautiful dishes, absolutely beautiful dishes that my grandmother used to make. Now, you've seen that I didn't add any water. Sometimes you have to add some water. If you put the volume of carrot celery and you reduce everything, if it looks like it's drying up and I've got the temperature on high heat, then you add some water. What happens is that you sweat the meat, you sweat the vegetables, but to get the flavors out. But after that, if you need water in it, because this is done fast, then add a little bit of water. And then you cover it up, and trust me, it cooks really fast. We're talking about 20-minute stop. And what we're going to do, since we've been already cooking at it for 15 minutes, I'm going to add another little bit of milk, just like that, just to get rid of the acidity of the tomatoes. Some people like to add some sugar. I don't like to add some sugar. It just messes up with all the flavors. So that's the reason why I prefer to have a little bit more carrots, a little bit of more onions, who has more sugar, and then we're using natural sugars from those vegetables to come up with a beautiful concoction like my grandmother used to make. Never add some sugar if you can help it. And then that's it. The plate should be done. Stir it up a little bit more for the flavors. Just like that. If my grandmother was around, she would grab me by the cheek and say, "Mamma mia." What I do, you can grab some parsley, up, chop it up, okay. This is to finish the dish. You can grab a little bit of summer tomatoes, just like that. It doesn't take long. Cooking is a labor of love, especially Italian cooking. And I will take my Parmesan cheese, get it ready, and look at what we have right now. You don't want to overcook it. And here we go. And what we'll do, we will serve a beautiful pasta bolognese, not overloaded with tomato sauce, just like what it's supposed to be. We're going to include just like that, the black olives. We're going to add our little fresh tomatoes, just like that. We're going to do a little bit of parsley. That is up to you. How much parsley do you want? And then I'm going to take the Parmesan cheese and I'm going to take the grater and I'm going to grate some marvelous Parmesan cheese on top of this beautiful dish, al fresco, meaning that obviously this sauce hasn't cooked for hours like the other one, but it is full of flavor because of the black olives, because it's got the parsley in there, it's got the capers, it's got the herbs of Provence in there. You can also use fresh rosemary, which I haven't used like right now, you can. My grandmother used to grab me by the hair before I rode my bike and said, "Little Gianni, go pick me some rosemary or thyme." But at the same time, in the attic, she used to have a lot of dried up herbs because it's concentrated. She used to cook with a lot of it with the dry herbs because if you smell them, of course you can tell that it's got a concentration of flavor. And that's why I love to use the same recipe like she used to do it. And I know it looks really well to actually add a little bit of fresh rosemary, just like that, and then cover it up until your guest or your wife or your family comes back, and you just let it cook up a little bit more. But in the meantime, this is my 15-20 minutes pasta bolognese, the way that my grandmother and the way that my parents used to serve it. Bon appetito. If you like this video, click on subscribe, search us out, and we will actually put out another video every week on this marvelous kind of kitchen stuff that my grandmother and my parents used to put out to please their guests and all the people that used to come in at my parents' restaurants. Have a great week, and I'll see you again later. Ciao.